1960 flood, I think, was probably the biggest thing that this area had ever seen up until last year. And why this one we had made it so worse than the one before, I think a lot of it contributes to the fact that there was only about 25%, or about a fourth of the population here at that time that there is now, so it affected so many more people last year than it did back in 1960, but my grandfather told me a lot about it and how devastating it was. But this was beyond anything we could ever see or imagine. And, you know, as we remember the devastation that was that we received here in Old Fort and in our community, McDowell County and surrounding areas, the loss of life, which was the worst of all, the hardest thing to deal with, the loss of home, the loss of property, and the suffering and pain that so many felt. And we all have stories to tell, some worse than others. I remember riding around with a sheriff and looking at some of the devastation. They were still trying to find people that were missing, and it was heart-wrenching. And there were sights that I saw then, and sights that you guys saw, many of you, all of you, that will be molded in our minds for the rest of our lives. And we will never forget some of the horrific things that we saw and things that happened. You know, we see one of the things that I saw that has stuck with me. I came through Old Fort just the next day when all this had happened. And I remember seeing, and this just broke my heart. I saw this young lady out where her house used to be, digging through the rubble, trying to pull out toys for her children. And she had the little children sitting there with her, and it was pitiful. It broke my heart. And so many people suffered in so many ways. There was another girl, I wish she could have been here today, but she lived up in the Woodlawn area. But she was swept away with her child, you know, trying to get across the creek, trying to save her children, her husband, they were all swept away. But she grabbed hold of her little child and her son, and they went down the river, you know, just no hope. But that's where God comes in. So God's great hand reached down and guided that woman and her little child up to safety and land. So I just appreciate that. And, you know, through it all, the things that have amazed me more than anything else is the unity and the love that the people of this county, of this community, have shown. You know, it showed me that no matter what, you know, no matter how corrupt things might be when you watch TV, how corrupt our nation seems, and there is still goodness. There is still goodness in the hearts of people. And so we just appreciate the goodness and the mercy that was shown in abundance here in our community.